Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Paola and today is the third day in the 12 Days of Christmas video series that I am doing. And today is a very exciting day because I get to talk about my top 10 book to screen adaptations that I have seen in 2022. So thank God for my Patreon newsletter because that's how I was able to sort of look back and see and compile my top 10. So here we go. At number 10, we have the One of Us is Lying series. This has 2 seasons and I watched both of them this year. This is based on the book of the same name by Karen M. McManus and it was published by Delacorte Press, which is an imprint of Penguin Random House. And I have not read the book, so this is not a review of how well it was adapted or not. It was just how I thought about the thing as a standalone piece. So basically, One of Us is Lying is a teen murder mystery drama about 4 kids who end up in detention at the same time with an added 5th kid. His name is Simon and he is sort of like Gossip Girl. He runs a site where, you know, he posts gossip and he posts like facts about the students and stuff like that, and it's like their very darkest, very deepest secrets. And for some reason everybody knows who this guy is. Like everybody knows he is Gossip Girl, but nobody does anything about it. That was something I found a little weird, but I was able to sort of just go with it for the hell of it. And anyway, so he and these other 4 kids are in detention together, and then he dies. He has an allergic reaction to peanut, I think, and he dies. And so it is believed that one of those 4 kids killed him, and so they have to solve who the actual killer is because they allegedly did nothing. And it is very, very exciting. I really enjoyed the first season. I thought it was tight. I loved the characters. I loved the angst, the drama, the love that is in it. I had a solid time with the first season. With the second season, not so much. I don't know if it is based on the second book in the series, which is called One of Us is Next. But basically, at the end of season 1, spoiler alert, the actual killer is revealed and he dies because one of the kids shoots him. And so now they are actual killers and they are actually trying to hide the fact that, you know, they were involved in the murder of this other kid. And it is a messy show. I'd say it is kind of interesting, but it didn't really hit the same spots as season 1 did. It was just a little too scattered, and Vanessa got in my nerves so hard in that season 2. And then we got an episode just from her point of view, which I fully thought was a joke. Like I fully thought the kids, the original 4 kids, were sort of plotting the way that Vanessa sort of ran into them and how the episode turned out. But it wasn't, and I gave up after that episode. It was just a really kind of boring, very scattered, very just blah season, and that's why it's on the 10th spot. Number 9, There's Someone Inside Your House. This is a YA horror slasher film based on a novel by the same name by Stephanie Perkins. And I have really found my footing with horror movies. Slashers are my thing now. Who knows why? And this one is very straightforward. This this killer, gets inside these places that are supposed to be locked and he kills people. And it was entertaining. I love slashers for that reason because at the very least they are entertaining. But the payoff in this one was so blah. Like the killer had very weird reasons. It was just bad. It was just like the payoff was just not there at all. As for the rest of the things that were happening, they were interesting. I just feel like it was, again, like season 2 of One of Us is Lying. It was a little too scattered and there wasn't really like a narrow focus. So I couldn't really root for any one character. I was like, if they die, that's fine. If these other person dies, that's fine as well. Like I wasn't really rooting for anyone, but at least it was entertaining and I didn't click off it like I did with season 2 of One of Us is Lying. I didn't give up, and that's why it's on number 9. Number 8, Dr. Doolittle. On Wikipedia, it says that Doolittle is based on the title character created by Hugh Lofting and is primarily inspired by the author's second Dr. Doolittle book, The Voyages of Dr. Doolittle, and the book was published in 1922. And this one is fantasy, like it says on the Wikipedia page. It's like a journey, a voyage of the doctor as he is on a quest to find a thing that will cure the queen, I believe. And it has Robert Downey Jr., which you can never go wrong with Robert Downey Jr. at the forefront of whatever it is that you're doing. I have a great affinity for his acting and his work and just like his person in general. Anyway, and this one was a lot of fun. I feel like it ran a little too long. Like at times I was like, is this gonna end anytime soon? Which is not a great thing, but I had a lot of fun. I thought it was very endearing. The animals were so much fun. I love that every animal had like a solid characteristic that sort of distinguished them from the rest of them. It wasn't just like these are my animals and I will help them and they will help me achieve my goal. They also had goals to achieve for themselves in terms of character development, and I found that very, very exciting. And yeah, I think the reason why I placed it on at number 8 is because of how long it seemed at times. At number 7, we have On the Come Up. This is a book to movie adaptation of the book of the same name by Angie Thomas. And I read this book, I think, when it was first announced that the movie was gonna happen. On the Come Up is a YA contemporary story about Bree, who is an aspiring rapper, and her dad was a rapper as well, and he very sadly passed away before he made it big. And now Bree feels like she has, quite the shoes to fill, while at the same time really wanting to make it big so that she can solve pretty much all of her family's money issues. And we have her mom, who is a recovering addict, and she lost custody of her children when I think Bree was like 4, maybe 5 years old. And Bree also has a brother whose name is escaping me right now, and he did like the whole shebang. He went to college, but now he works at a pizza parlor, and so Star is sort of struggling to see what the right thing about going to college really means if you end up at a pizza parlor. And we have her aunt, who is sort of like her manager, and we have her dad's former manager, who I think they were also friends, but he was just really in it for the money and he really like screwed him over. And we have 2 of her best friends, and they're both so great. I love the dynamic that they have going on, and the book was phenomenal. I really, really love Angie Thomas's writing. She is the queen of subplots, and I loved the journey that Bree went on. I felt for her. I wanted to fight for her. I was rooting for her the entire time. And the movie is quite different because a lot of things happen in the movie that don't happen in the book. Basically, in the movie, she is like on track to start recording, and she meets producers and she does this and she does that, and everything sort of moves a little bit quicker than in the book. I'd say the book is a lot more character focused than it is plot driven, which is something I am very, very fond of. Like, it was genuinely really different. Picture like the third book in the To All the Boys I Loved trilogy in the movie. Like, if you compare the two, they're very, very different, but the essence of the book is there. And I think that's what On the Come Up did as well. Like, it took what it needed from the book and it made it into a movie that worked really, really well for a book that also really, really worked on its own. At number 6, we have The Hate You Give, which is another Angie Thomas novel of the same name, movie adaptation. The Hate You Give is Angie Thomas's debut book, and I believe it came out in 2017, and it is inspired by the Black Lives Matter movement. It's about Star, who is the sole witness to her friend Khalil's murder, and it's about Star finding her own voice as she decides whether or not she wants to be more public about the fact that she was the only witness. And it is one hell of a novel. And this is another adaptation whose source material I have read, and I love The Hate You Give. It is right here. It is here. Yay. And I loved the book. I thought it was amazing. I have affinity for Star and her brother. Like, those two own my entire freaking heart. I love them to pieces. And the movie was so good too. Like, I remember watching it like after it was in theaters, like when it was available to watch on demand. I watched it and I sort of forgot how much and I enjoyed it. I also forgot how great Algie Smith was as Khalil. Like, he did such an amazing job, and I feel like that's a very, very tricky role, and he just freaking gave it his all, and he understood the assignment, and it was amazing. I also love that, like, I mean, this book is quite chunky. Let's see. I think it's over 400 pages. Yeah, it's 438 pages. And the way that it was packaged into a movie worked really, really, really well. I really cannot wait for every single thing that Angie Thomas writes to become a movie. At number 5, we have The Summer I Turned Pretty. This is a show that is based on the book of the same name, or the book series of the same name. The Summer I Turned Pretty by Jenny Han is a trilogy, and I've only read the first book, but I am very excited about reading the next 2 books. Anyway, this first book focuses on Belly and her brother, but mostly Belly, going to their mother's best friend's beach house, which is sort of like their annual trip to this place. And they've known the mom's best friend's kids for forever, and Belly has had a big fat crush on Conrad, the oldest. And I think she must be like 15 years old and he must be 16 years old. And Conrad's brother, Jeremiah, has had a big fat crush on Belly for as long as he can remember. And they are actually, I think, the same age. And the reason why it's called The Summer I Turned Pretty, it's because it is right when Belly is, growing into puberty and sort of being seen as more attractive, and she lets her hair loose and she's taller and she wears like shorter stuff, tighter stuff, and so she is pretty now. And I love this first book. It is so freaking teenager. It is so great to see. I feel like Jenny Han really, really gets teenagers in her books. And I'm very, very excited about the prospect of reading the next 2 books in the trilogy. As for the TV show, I had so much fun with it. Like with the book, I was not expecting to enjoy the show as much as I did. And this one has the added aspect of cotillion. Cotillion is sort of like not cotillion, the debutante ball, sorry. The debutante ball is sort of what drives the plot forward, and it is fantastic. The acting is all there. I love that Stephen was much more present in the show than he was in the first book. I love the way Conrad is angsty, and I'm very happy to say that I finally, apparently, grew out of my sort of broody bad boy face. Conrad is not a bad boy. He's like a kid and he has a lot of angst and he doesn't really communicate. He really reminded me a lot of Ryan Atwood from the OC. Every single angsty, broody bad boy reminds me of Ryan from the OC. But he's just, quiet and going through a lot, and he's drinking and he's doing all sorts of things that he should not be doing, but he's a teenager, so what are we gonna do about it? But Jeremiah owned my entire heart. In the book, I was 100% Team Cam. And in the show, I was like, Team Jeremiah, all the way. What are we doing here? It was just such a joy to see these like unapologetically teenager show. And I can't wait for season 2. At number 4, we have The House of the Dragon and Game of Thrones. Both are HBO shows, and they have their source material at the Song of Ice and Fire series by George R.R. Martin. I started watching The House of the Dragon because of Ava Reed, so shout out to them. Please read their books. They are very, very good. And I fell in love with the show. I am not a fantasy girly. I get intimidated very, very easily. But I was in a desperate need of a break. And I think that's what my brain sort of grabbed from The House of the Dragon. It is a very gnarly series, especially Game of Thrones. House of the Dragon had like nudity and violence, but it wasn't as hardcore as I thought it was gonna be, particularly because of the way people describe HBO shows. But it is violent, it is gnarly, and you will see someone getting beheaded in the first episode, as we did in Game of Thrones. Anyway, so I watched that show because it was short. I think it's like 8 or 9 episodes, I forget. And it is a prequel to Game of Thrones, so I didn't have the sort of like the, oh no, I have to catch up feeling. And it was amazing. About what I said about my brain needed a break is that sometimes I put on shows and I start feeling guilty that I am enjoying the show a little too much, and so I instead have it as background noise and I start working. And this series did not allow me to do that at all. These series required my undivided, full attention, and I love that. I think my brain really, really needed that kind of a break from work, and I appreciated the hell out of it. It is one hell of a show. It is set 172 years before Daenerys Targaryen is born. Yeah, basically it's set where the Targaryens had all of the power. I don't know how many years they had been reigning for, but it is as King Viserys is taking over the throne, and he only has one heir, and that is Rhaenyra. But it is a patriarchal society, and so the throne might go to Daemon, his younger brother. It is so good. I need season 2 immediately, and because I really fell in love with the show, I started watching Game of Thrones, which is set 172 years in the future, and it is so good. I really love that this series requires my undivided attention. I love how brutal it is, and I was not expecting to enjoy it as much as I did, because like I said, fantasy is a little overwhelming for me, and I'm not one for violence or like all of the gnarly violent things that happen in Game of Thrones, but look at me now. Character development, I guess. At number 3, we have Rosaline. This is based on When You Were Mine by Rebecca Searle, which in turn was inspired by William Shakespeare, Romeo and Juliet. This is basically about the girl Romeo meets before he meets and falls in love and dies because of Juliet. This movie was just pure, unadulterated fun. I loved Caitlin Dever as Rosaline, she was so much fun, and she had all of it. She's the whole package. The funny, the angsty, the sad, the jealousy, everything was there. And like I said, it was just pure unadulterated fun. It was comedic, it was romantic, it had everything that I love about a romantic movie. And it is about teenagers falling in love, which is, my number one favorite genre in the entire universe. Number 2, Fire Island. This is a gay reimagining of Pride and Prejudice by Jane Austen. Conrad Ricamora is in it. Oh my god, I love that man so much. Just pure unadulterated love that I have for that man. He is so good at what he does. What a fun and surprise of a movie. I think all 5 of the movies that are on my top 5, or all 5 of the adaptations that are on my top 5, are there because of how much I ended up enjoying them. To this day, it's been what? It premiered on Pride Month, so it's been 5 or 6 months since Fire Island came out, and I'm still thinking about it and thinking how great it was. Basically, like I said, it is a reimagining of Pride and Prejudice. It is about 2 grumps falling in love at the very end. It is slow burn, and it is gay, and it is sexy, and it is just absolutely freaking phenomenal. I want more. I want more movies made like this. And finally, at the number 1 spot, I have Love, Victor. This is a spin-off of Love, Simon, which was based on Simon versus the Homo sapiens agenda by Becky Albertalli. And this one follows Victor. He has just recently moved from, I don't remember where he was from, but he just moved to Atlanta, Georgia, and he's going to the same high school as Simon was in the movie. And he is a closeted gay boy, and he is writing emails to Simon to sort of figure out where he is in his questioning journey, in his coming out journey. And it had me crying at 4 in the morning, so that is why it is at number 1. I feel like season 2 and season 3 really dropped the ball, but season 1, oh my god, perfection. It is angsty, it is romantic, it is teenagery, it is so good. It really spoke to me in ways I was not expecting it to. And even if I didn't really love the way that it ended up unfolding, I still hold it in a very near and dear place in my heart. It made me laugh, it made me cry, it spoke to me in ways I was not even prepared to be spoken to, and I had the time of my life with this show, and that's why it is at number 1. Alrighty, so that is the end of today's video. Let me know in the comments below what is the best book to screen adaptation that you have seen in 2022. And if you haven't already and you'd like to, go ahead and hit subscribe. Don't forget to check out the description below for links to my Patreon and my social media places. And yeah, thank you for watching. I'll see you next time.